For a while, I had a video idea now that in itself seemed to be a massive project. I actually had already written down a whole script for that video, and it was over 2 hours long. I even already started editing it, and maybe at some point I will still publish a documentary style video. But I want to simplify the idea for this video now and ask, why do we play survival games? Why do we log into ARK every day? And before you continue watching, pause the video and write me a comment why you play ARK, why you play survival games. A good short answer would be, well, because we like it. And honestly, that's a valid answer. But if we look deeper into it, and if you have been on this channel before, then you know that looking deeper into things is kind of my thing. Then we see that games reflect our personality or our interest, especially our needs we have at that time. My first idea and hypothesis was when we feel safe and secure in our life, then we feel bold enough to take more risks, even in games. And when we need something to calm us down, then we refer back to cozy games to soothe ourselves. And I think there might be something true to that point, but I think that can't be the whole story, because my most intense ARK time when I played 13 hours or more a day was probably during my worst years in life. So something doesn't add up with the initial claim I made here. And I also know from some of the players I met during the time that they didn't play a lot of ARK because they had the most fulfilled lives. Quite the opposite. So what is the truth here? I think the answer to this is it's complex, because humans are complex. So while we could stop at, or because we like it, when we were asked why we play survival games, I think it is worth looking deeper into it, and maybe we can even answer a few more questions about the survival community on the way. The history of survival games is long, not as long as gaming itself, but survival games are older than you might think. I think the whole fighting, dangers, building shelter and thrive hype started with Minecraft, which had a rather terrible reputation when it got released. And then it moved on to DayZ when the Armor 2 mod came out. By the way, very coincidentally, The Walking Dead was released as a TV series in 2010, and I bet it had absolutely nothing to do with the sudden hype of zombie survival games. Minecraft back in the day was seen as a kids game only, as a time waste. The only reason that changed is because the kids who grew up with Minecraft are now adults and have kids themselves. Now, there's more nostalgia connected to Minecraft than prejudice. And I also throw in another hot take. DayZ was Minecraft for people who didn't want to get caught playing a kid's game, but they still liked the Minecraft game loop, you know, like the killing zombies and building shelter. And by the way, those were not the first games to tackle the survival topic. Depending on who you ask, this answer differs. But I think Unreal World from Finland is a strong contester here. So around Minecraft's release and the DayZ hype, we had an insane survival game hype time. A few years later, riding on the last wave of the survival game hype, ARK got released. The game we all know and love for most of the time. At the time, people were already a little bit tired and burnt out from yet another survival game, so ARK was a bit of a slow burner, a hidden gem for most casual gamers. Even I, who already had a YouTube channel to cover survival games at that time, didn't hear about the ARK release until friends told me about it. So looking at the politics in 2015, 2016, those were times of tension and unrest. And I mean, is that a surprise? And while I don't want to go too deep into politics here because I have another YouTube channel for that, I think we cannot ignore the times that we live in when we talk about what we prefer and what our mindset is at the time. ARK's best PR back then was to piggyback on another dinosaur survival game. And that game basically did all the hype collecting for the genre, and then it failed miserably. The Stomping Land. It collected $114,000 on Kickstarter, and this is how companies back then did their early access, because Steam wouldn't allow early access games unless they were greenlit by Steam due to high quality or hype. So if you wanted a game to be on Steam, you either needed to be almost done with a game or it needed to be like really much hyped. And since it was usually easier to make a crowdfunding campaign than going through Steam's verification process, this was the preferred way and method of game companies to collect funds for games that didn't exist yet. So the Kickstarter was set up in 2013. It got $114,000 in backing. Then 2014, it was deemed worthy enough to be greenlit by Steam, so it was as an early access title on Steam. And then it was abandoned by the developers in the same year. Supporters were furious, demanding their money back from Kickstarter, but since when you back on Kickstarter, you don't buy the game, but you only support an idea, there was no way for you to get the money back. And this was nonetheless such a big PR disaster for Kickstarter that they blocked the developers for ever making another Kickstarter campaign again. So there was like this big army of people who wanted a dinosaur survival game, who were willing to pay for a dinosaur survival game. And then there was ARK, filling the void just a year later. The light of hope for the dinosaur survival game community. And that was, by the way, not a coincidence. A little artifact in the game still reminds players of that time. The Rex bling bling glasses with the letters TSL on it. TSL stands obviously for the Stomping Land. A little snark towards a developer studio that just took the money and ran. In the beginning, you could only get the glasses if Steam detected that you had bought the Stomping Land as well. A rare collectible to attract disappointed players from the Stomping Land to try out ARK. And also really a message that says, hey, we see you and we have something for you that you always wanted. So video editing tier here. What's most interesting about the connection of both games is that the developer of the Stomping Land, Alex Fundora, and the founder of ARK, Jeremy Stieglitz, not only knew each other, but they worked together at Trendy Entertainment on Dungeon Defenders, with Stieglitz being the co-founder of Trendy and the lead developer, and Fundora the lead animator. Fundora even thanked Stieglitz in the credits of Dungeon Defenders for the work together. And based on that background info, the cosmetic in ARK felt more like a personal message and not just a meme anymore, and the launch of ARK seems to be more than just a coincidence. Sometimes it would be really interesting to find out more about circumstances of stories like these. So if you have played ARK as long as it existed, try to remember how your life looked like in that year that you started. What were your hopes and dreams, and especially when you put a lot of hours into the game? Were you happy in life, or did you fight something that dragged you mentally down? My initial hypothesis was that when we feel safe and secure, we play games in which we risk a lot and where we face dangers. But I think I didn't think far enough with that one. Survival games are more than just the survival aspect, but they are self-agency. That you are in charge and you have the power to be someone, to do what you want. Your progression and your standing within the community is not decided by how much money you have, how your job is looking, your education, but alone by your game knowledge and your skills and your value for the community. So let's be vulnerable for a second. When ARK got released, when I made my very first videos on ARK, when I streamed Survival of the Fittest almost every single day, I was at the lowest point of my life. I was in an abusive relationship that almost killed me. For me, my life wasn't so extremely stable that I had to get my kick out of the game. For me, life was such an unresolvable mess that going online in the game and meeting friends that I could talk to and create a world in which I had agency, where I could set boundaries, that was my therapy. And it was a big part why I kept my sanity. And over the years, I've seen many people experiencing similar things. ARK had been their way to socialize, to meet friends, to talk to people. Their ARK friends became their real friends. People met, people became real-life friends. Some even married, and some now have children. Humans crave agency and community. When I later did my trauma therapy for the past years and the experiences I went through, I was asked what I want from life, what my goal is. And I said, I want to have an impact and improving people's lives. I want that my actions improve how they experience life. And I couldn't tell you how at that time, but I want to believe that this wish was formed by my experiences helping people within the ARK community, where I always saw myself as the voice of reason and a patient educator that believes everyone can learn everything if someone just takes the time to explain it the right way. And these skills can easily be transferred into the world outside of gaming. But it needs the mindset for that. And I think all of the positive experiences I can look back on from our community that have strengthened my confidence. So let's rephrase my hypothesis now. People like survival games because they like having agency. They like when the amount of work they put into something results in more success and better outcome. When they feel like their work has an impact. Unlike in real life where you are stuck in your job for 40 years, do overtime and extra shifts, so the company or the shareholders are happy just to see the numbers go up. But you are rarely awarded for going the extra mile. Having a game where an hour longer playing can make a difference when it comes to progression and making your gameplay easier, that makes you want to do that extra hour. But an hour overtime work in which you know the best you can get is a handshake, the worst is the question why you didn't do 2 hours, the motivation for that is definitely lower. And survival games simplify things. You build shelter to be safe at night. You build weapons to defend yourself. You start farming or hunting to have food and clothing. You talk to people for trade or fight them for their resources. It tickles our brain at our oldest evolutionary needs and fulfills all of them, giving us the feeling of purpose and belonging, because these needs are the same for every single person on the world. We have shared ancestors after all, because survival is programmed in our DNA. Our survival skills are the very reason for our success as humans. And again, survival games piggyback on that fact. ARK's community is known to be very passionate about the game, in the positive and negative sense as well. And when we look at what ARK can mean to people after all of the things we prior discussed, then it's not really a surprise that some reactions seem to be out of proportion. Losing control in an environment that you used to experience the agency that you need, losing your character, your base, the dinosaurs you worked on very hard, that feels like a personal threat. Having content being gatekept by additional payments and purchases makes the game feel like real life, where your success is just defined by your buying power and not by the invested time or skill. And when a change to a game that you use to fulfill a basic need feels like a threat, then you are more likely to answer with the same impact. Your reaction will match your emotions, and people then are saying, well, it's just a game. That doesn't really apply anymore. But not everyone loves survival games. But also not everyone is the same, and not every game that gives us the feeling of agency is considered a survival game. Let's say Stardew Valley, for example, the top game for cozy gamers. It lets you build a farm, a successful life with many friends from scratch, and that at a time where nobody can afford their own house anymore. The Sims lets you experience and experiment with life decisions without having to suffer the consequences yourself, in a time where every mistake you make is broadcasted to the internet and everyone will know even the smallest misstep. And many other games have storylines that are the same, from nobody to hero plots through questing and helping people. Like even the most basic action shooters these days will give you the feeling of being in control to become the hero. And I find it absolutely fascinating how much of an impact games can have in our life. How they can change our belief system and how they can tickle the human needs that we developed tens of thousands of years ago. And I also think that it is wonderful that we can have all of these worlds at our fingertips when the world that we live in fails to provide us with everything we need to be happy. Thank you for watching the video, and if you're still here, let me know how much of this applies to you. Is the game just a game? Are other players in the game just players, or are they community? Are they people you play with? Are they friends? I'm super curious about your thoughts. And I also hope you like these styles of videos, and just let me know in the comments what you think about this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!